I'm Catherine, and we're here with Bouba and Tompson today to discuss the current conflict in Mali. Thank you for joining us today, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Bouba, could you give us just a brief overview of the conflict in Mali?
Sure. On last year, January 17th, an armed group coming from Libya, led by Tuareg officers who happened to be in the Gaddafi's regime military, attacked the Malian government army's position in the north of Mali. So they took over a couple of towns with the help of an Al-Qaeda linked group called Ansar-Din. And for 2 months, they were progressing south, coming from the border of Algeria all the way to Kidal. Kidal is the northern region in Mali. And that was coupled with a coup in Bamako, the capital of Mali, that overthrew the president and the whole government. So this coup allowed the progression of the rebellion to be faster. So they took over the entire northern three regions of Mali. And they've been doing that with the Al-Qaeda linked group called Ansar-Din, and then another group, Mujahid, Oneness, Unicity for Jihad, Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
So yeah, so they took over the whole region, and they took it together. But the Tuareg group, the rebels are called the MNLA. It's the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad. Azawad is the three regions that they call Azawad. Okay. That's what the Tuareg call them. And so they are for a secular state, secular group, which is not the same for the Al-Qaeda group, Ansar-Din. So they bumped heads, basically, over the control of the regions.
Okay. When
the MNLA wanted to impose a secular kind of administration, the Ansar-Din was against that. So they fought, and for some reason, the population who did not like the rebellion sided with the Islamist group to chase off the rebels.
Okay.
So since that was back in May, so since May, or June actually, since June, only the Islamist groups have been controlling the entire region. So that brings me back to 3-4 weeks ago. They had they wanted to come a bit further south, the Islamist group.
South, yeah.
And once they did that, the Malian army left their position. So they were coming stronger and faster. That's when the French intervention came about.
Okay.
And helped them and stop their progression, actually push them back. So in a nutshell, that's
what's going on. Okay, great. Thank you for that overview. So Tompson, you've been very critical of Western involvement in affairs of the African country. Why do you feel that France should not intervene in this conflict?
Oh, okay. Maybe let me first correct you a little bit. Well, that's a wrong description of what I represent, of who I am.
Okay.
I have never been critical about Western involvement in African affairs or in other countries' affairs. Actually, I was very supportive of the involvement of these Western countries in Libya, and I was very supportive of France when it entered Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay.
And but now coming to your question, the French involvement in Mali is kind of, for me, it's kind of suspicious, because there was another conflict, running at the same time in the, what do you call it? It's called CR. What's that? Central African Republic.
Okay.
And it was one of the former the
territories,
of
France.
And both countries actually asked for assistance, if you remember. But France ignored Central African Republic, and instead acted swiftly when the other country, that is when Mali asked for assistance. Now, I don't know why. Why would France not intervene in that other country? I'm not trying to say that they should have sent an army or something, but they should have intervened in a, in a way, or they should have tried perhaps to reconcile those groups and to try that they are also supportive of that government.
Okay.
But now coming to Mali, right? Mali, there was no government in Mali, right? By the time they intervened in it, right?
Right.
There was
there was a government. There's an interim president and there's a government.
Yeah, but that government was put in place by the army.
No, actually, it's the Constitution. When the president is not here, the president actually resigned.
Forced to resign.
Well, he formally signed it. He signed the paper.
Okay, I believe he was forced to resign. Because those guys, for the sake of his life, that's why he went into hiding. If he did not resign, I think he feared for his life. But what I'm trying to say is, France intervened in a chaotic situation, right?
Right.
These other governments, African governments, of course they were trying to say we are trying to come together and then try to see what we can do to send an army, but they did not act swiftly. Why? Because the issue
France
of
didn't act swiftly. You're saying France?
No, the African.
The
other African. Because we expect Africans to intervene quickly in order to restore order. But they didn't. They kind of dragged their feet, and they're trying to say, okay, we don't have resources, but France acted swiftly. Now, what do I say about French involvement?
So
to be specific, I can't say I support entirely, but for the sake of the people of Mali, if it was done on humanitarian grounds to save life in Mali, that's positive for me.
Right.
But I think France is also trying to flex its muscles to show that we are also here. We can also intervene just like any other big powers. For example, like what the US did in Afghanistan, Iran, they are also trying to sort of show their power and their position. And that's a big plus. If that conflict succeeds, that will be a big plus to Holland, Francois Holland's government, because that will be one of his first appearances, to show that, the paternalist, they can play the paternalistic role. But I was listening to my friend here. It seems this Islamist group is kind of supported by people.
No, at first, because you have to understand that the Tuareg rebellion is not the first one.
Yeah,
This is probably the fourth one, if my count is right.
The fourth rebellion since when?
Since 1963. The first one was in 1963.
Okay.
And then you have a couple of that after that. And so you have to understand the revendications are that they are a minority and they are not being listened to.
Okay.
They are being marginalized.
Excellent.
I can say because my mother is from the north. From the north. So when you talk about ethnic groups, they are not. They say they are the majority in the north, but they are a minority within the entire population of Mali. Well, that is a wrong fact. The fact is, in the north, they are a minority within the minorities.
Okay.
Even they are not even representative of the army. Is not even representative of the ethnic group they supposedly fighting for. Tuareg, they're not. If you go to the north of Mali, you have the main ethnic groups are Arabs, Arabs, Sarai, Fulani, Tuareg, and the Tuareg are a minority in these groups. So when they claim to be fighting for the entire region, it's a lie. That's a blatant lie. It's just a lie.
They're just fighting for their own.
Well, they're just fighting for their own, and they cannot even fight for the entire region because they do not own the entire region. They're not even present in the entire region.
Right.
So when I want to come back to what Tompson was saying earlier when he was making a comparison between the intervention in Mali and the non-intervention in Central Africa. But when you look at it, in Central African Republic, you had the regional institution, CEMAC, if I'm right, that stepped in automatically. You had Chad that sent troops and blocked the rebellion, the rebels, to come down to the capital. That happened. Well, in Mali, we waited 10 months, no disrespect to our brothers from ECOWAS, we waited 10 months to have 3,300 soldiers come. And that was decided in April, that they would send 3,300 soldiers to come and help restore the integrity of the territorial integrity of Mali. That did not happen. And they're not fighting the same fight. We were facing Islamist group, jihadists. There they were fighting a rebellion, which is different. The jihadists, if the jihadists had taken the entire Mali, then Niger would have followed suit. That's a neighboring country. Burkina Faso, Guinea. Not to forget that all the countries in the region, like 3 of them, Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Liberia, are coming from a strong conflict, a violent conflict. So you still have the premises to have this conflict reemerge. So it was necessary for the French to intervene.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. But maybe it's not a warning, it's not a critique, or it's something that I'm not even against your point, because if we look at, again, there's the way these extremists are labeled, they are associated with Al-Qaeda, and that also in a way justifies the involvement of France. But the only question is why France and not any other like big power? So although some powers say they support France, you know.
Okay, so you think other major powers should get involved?
No, not that they should, but I still question why France. Is it because of the colonial legacy, or is it
I'm sorry to cut you off. That is one fact we cannot ignore.
The fact that it was a colonial
that was a colonial. But even not only that, France has 6,000 plus people in Mali right now. They have people that have been kidnapped by this group. So it's only normal, yes.
Yeah, that's very positive.
So,
do others have people who are kidnapped, or just France?
Well, France, if I'm wrong.
I think
it's France. I don't know if the U.S. or any other Western country, probably. But France is, I'm sure. France has 6 or 7.
Okay, so it's 6 to 7.
And there are still held hostages.
So you think they have the most at stake, which is why
they have, the entire world is at stake, because once they take over Mali, if you look at the 3 regions, the only 3 regions that I'm talking about, they are 1.5 times bigger than France.
Oh.
That's how big the territory is.
Okay.
So once they take over that, they have taken over that region. Once they take over the whole country, you can imagine how they can spread fast. We have weapon trafficking, we have drug trafficking, human trafficking. So they can go to Europe, they can go to America, Central America, they can go anywhere. They need it to be stopped now. Before it spreads to Algeria. Not to forget that Al-Qaeda that I'm talking about comes from Algeria. Because when you look at AQIM, that's Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb.
Okay.
It's an alliance that happened in 2006 between the GSPC, which is a former armed group that was acting on Algerian soil back in the 90s. That's an alliance with the GSPC and Al-Qaeda, the biggest structure. They came together and they formed Al-Qaeda in Islamic Maghreb. Ever since 2006 or 5, they've been
since this alliance.
They've been they've been kidnapping people, drug trafficking. In 2009, we had a plane that supposedly crashed, but it did not crash. It was
shot down.
No, it was full of cocaine. They just landed that plane in the north of Mali, 727, full of cocaine, and they just burned down the plane afterwards. So just imagine that amount of drugs circulating in that region, and just understand that it's not even for that reason. It is mainly targeting France, Europe. It goes there. It doesn't go to Africa. We don't go into that. The main target is to send the cocaine and the drugs to Europe. So it's a big problem. It needed to be stopped. And the French intervention, if it had not happened on January 11th, Bamako, the capital of Mali, would have fallen. And then after that, Senegal would follow suit. Guinea, Liberia, chain reaction for the entire region.
So, what do you think the intervention by France means for a peaceful resolution?
For a peaceful resolution
of this conflict?
I would say it's,
now that France is in there, I'm sorry to cut you off, can a peaceful resolution happen, or?
With who? A peaceful resolution with whom?
With the will the conflict be stopped now, or I mean, I guess peaceful resolution.
How would you?
So basically, my question is, what is the end game for France?
The end game for France?
Yeah, that's kind of the question. But in terms of
the end game, the end game for France.
Wait, should I re-ask that?
No, I'm just rephrasing that same question for him. So in terms of France is fighting these people to what end? So in terms of afterwards, would they let the UN go in for their SPLM like peaceful resolution thing? Like, what does it mean for conflict resolution?
But I want to know what it means for now. Will the conflict?
Well, first of all,
so just ask the question again.
How should I word it? Can I word it the same way?
The same way. And then I'll jump to yours.
Okay. So what does this intervention by France mean for a peaceful resolution of the conflict?
Well, first of all, it would just restore Mali's territorial integrity.
Okay.
And it would enable our IDPs and refugees to go back home safely.
Now that France is in there.
Now that France is in there, but France is leaving. France is there for, and I heard the defense minister saying that they're probably leaving by March. But you have troops from the ECOWAS pouring in Mali right now, as we're speaking. So they'll be here to stabilize the country, the northern regions, and to make sure that there are no Al-Qaeda cells trying to reemerge and take over that region again.
Can I just ask a question? Yes. So you said that they were trying to move south.
South, yes.
So do they still have power in the north?
No.
So they got broken up once France got in? Well,
they got broken up, now they are hiding. But since it's like I said, it's a big territory to cover.
Right.
Big ground. The ground is huge. They need to move town by town, villages by villages, and it's the desert. You have mountains.
Okay.
It kind of looks like parts of the northern region kind of looks like Afghanistan.
Okay.
So that's how hard it is to track down this.
Hard geographically.
Exactly. But for France, the end game for France, because I believe you were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
The end game for France is first they have hostages there. So they still have hostages there. Yes, 7 hostages. Okay. So it might be a way for them to free those hostages. That's one. Second, it's this intervention helped save 6,000 plus French lives in Mali, and they have not only saved that, but they have saved the entire region. Most people won't say, but I would say they've saved the entire region.
Because you believe it would have been chain reaction.
I am sure that it would have been.
Now it's not.
You have Niger that has our northern regions border Niger. Niger, we have kind of like the same population. But in the south of Niger, you have Nigeria. In Nigeria, in the north of Nigeria, which is the south of, you have Boko Haram, which is an Islamist group, a terrorist group. So they probably have cells in Niger as well. So just imagine if they had taken all of them out, they would have sent probably fighters in Niger. That would have been the next target, the plausible next target. And in Niger, you have French interests. They have their companies there, they have their families, they have thousands of French living there as well.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I have something to add. The end game for France. I don't know, but France is going to leave, but that does not save the French population in Mali. That could actually exacerbate the situation. I assume that these guys actually the involvement of France actually created sort of an opportunity for them to regroup and try to re-strategize.
For who to regroup?
The extremists. I think these guys are just, preparing for a showdown, like a big showdown.
Because they're just in hiding now.
Yes, of course. And they might be among the people, because these are Malians. Some of them are Malians. I mean, they sort of assimilate.
But that's going to be hard. But
And so, and again, we see this division between the south and the north.
Right.
These are not like united. The country is kind of divided already, and that doesn't stop extremists from regrouping. So I think France should not hurriedly leave that place.
So you think they should stay longer than March?
They should learn from what happened in Afghanistan. They should take that lesson. And Al Qaeda and extremists, they are very tricky groups. They don't die like easily. And now I fear that the French people will be targeted, in kind of different areas. So what could be done is the puzzle for Mali now. That's a very difficult thing that's a very difficult question, because obviously when you talk of trying to negotiate with trying to go and negotiate with extremists is something that is a taboo. I mean, many people don't think it's normal. But I think there are people, or there are certain groups that are not linked to Al Qaeda. If I got you right, those groups might have like a legitimate, reasons for fighting. And if the government could try to reach out to those people in the south and try to, talk to them, they can win the south and then try to unify the two regions. And then they'll be faced with one common enemy, and that is the Islamists. And
so unification.
That unification is needed before they can actually do away or eradicate that other group.
But do you
think
it
may take time.
France is necessary to do that, or?
No, France should not take the lead.
Okay.
France should not be seen as trying to recolonize Mali. But I think I was talking to my friend here. I asked whether these guys really had a bloody war. War of independence. But I learned that they didn't fight the way most countries in Africa did. Like, for example, in Zimbabwe, we really fought. The people fought the British, to the end. But these ones had a gentleman agreement. They made a deal, and they didn't really fight, so to speak. So because of that relationship, I think France can still help in a
backseat, that kind of way.
But they should not totally
leave.
They should help with logistics. They should help try to training and so forth, and try to.
But unification is
very
one.
necessary.
I want to jump back to what he said earlier. The whole country.
Yes.
And the population.
Is divided?
No, they're not. That's what I was trying to say. We usually make differences between the north and the south. Like I said, I am both from the north and the south. My father's from the south. My mother's from the north. So I have my entire family doing the same thing. And you have many millions of families in Mali having the same configuration, if I can say. So we do not really have those ethnic problems or divisions. We never had that. That was actually our strength.
Okay.
So when you had the Tuareg-led group, that's why I say they're not representative, because many Tuaregs do not even assimilate themselves with them.
Oh.
They do not associate themselves with them. So when you have them arguing that they are marginalized, it does not make sense.
So
you had many of them within the administration. Former prime minister was a Tuareg, ministers, what have you. So there's no such division as when you look at different countries, like Sudan, where you had a clear problem between the north and the south. So no, we never had that. We never had that. This is new to us. These are people that have been living together for centuries. So it does not make sense.
So then what do you think is necessary for the ending of Mali during this conflict? Well, it's not unification.
No, because he was saying he was talking about the end game for France. The end game for France has other battles to fight, and it does not. Well, I would love for them to stay a bit longer, just to make sure. But since we have 6,000 plus soldiers from the ECOWAS coming to stabilize the country. I can see their point not to their point when they say it does not make sense for them to stay longer because money, and they've done a great job so far. So maybe it's probably time for them to pack up.
But I think the other solution for Mali is to, capacity building. The government needs to be really strengthened. So I think that's the best we can do, because it seems they were not in control of the South. That is why I thought there was a division. Because if those people can sort of wallop, like government soldiers and so forth, it shows the government was not that strong. So it needs to be
stronger.
Stronger.
But I'm sorry.
And also, the question of these troops from ECOWAS, well, they have not yet been tested. We don't know how they perform. That is why I think these guys should, France should, stay a little bit longer and try to, kind of initiate them and try to kind of help them, with this kinds of logistics and so forth. Because you never know, the question of resources, again, might affect the ECOWAS group, and they can also leave everything.
Well, you have many countries who have come forward and say that they were going to send trainers, military trainers. So I think that can cover what you were just saying. But the end game for Mali, now we're talking about the after war.
Yes.
After war, what we need to do, we had a decentralization process that was implemented back in the 90s, but it was not effectively implemented. We need to do that so that people, even in the northern town in Mali, can have a representation and feel that his voice or her voice is being heard and that their needs are being met.
Is that why it was ineffective before?
Well, it was not implemented as effectively as it should have been.
Why?
Well, that's why we all need to go back and do reform and look at what went wrong.
Okay.
So if you have deputies in the Congress, in the Malian Parliament, joining the rebellion, toward congressmen joining the rebellion, to me that's kind of like an oxymoron, because you are fighting a state and it's the representative of that state, and you let them join the organization. It does not make sense. So something went wrong and we need to fix that. So we need to go back and see at the different accords that have been signed throughout since the independence, and see how every ethnic group, every town, villages can have their voices heard. That's what we need to do. And the reconciliation process, we need to have a dialogue. Anybody that will renounce the independence of a so-called Azawad or a region or a town or what have you can come to the table. As long as they put down their guns, then we can have a sit down and have a dialogue. We've had dialogues throughout since the 1990s. We can still hold talks. And I believe throughout those talks, we can resolve most of the grievances that each and every community might have had. That's what I have.
That's cool. So you're simply confirming that, many people were not happy with what was going on, especially you talked about many promises that were not fulfilled. And so that's why I think and suspect that these guys, the insurgent groups, they actually had support of people. Those people who felt that their needs were not being met, who felt that they were being betrayed. From what you're saying, because if you're going to go back and try to say, okay, well, let's try to, come together and sit and dialogue and try to see where we went wrong, it really shows that the government perhaps is now trying to make a comeback and trying to, go back to the people. So the people were alienated, sort of, during this time. That is why perhaps those groups kind of make progress easily, taking town, after town after town, It's because the people themselves, they might have a following.
No, actually, well, I'm going to disagree. Because when I say that they were able to take towns and villages as fast as they did, is because of the coup. If the coup had not happened, I'm not sure that it would have been as swiftly as it had happened. And for the rebellion, when they took over the entire region, what happened is that the population sided with the devil, if I may say, because they sided with the Islamists because they did not want the rebellion to win. And the Islamists at that time, and I said that was smart on their part, say they say, one, we are not against Mali, and we want to respect Mali's territorial integrity, which was not the case with the MNLA, which is the Tuareg-led rebellion group. So they sided with the devil to chase off the rebellion group, which is supposed to be part of the whole region and fighting for them. You see what I'm saying?
So you guys, you need to talk, or rather reconcile with the devil.
No, we don't even need to reconcile with it. The devil is a trickster. So the population got tricked into believing that this Islamist group, since we are this region, the three northern regions, Timbuktu, for example, have known Islam since the 15th century. So it does not make sense for somebody coming from anywhere to try and explain the religion to us. It does not make sense. We know the religion. It's been the first university apparently in the world. That's where scholars will come and learn scrolls and teachings. So when you have these guys coming and say that, okay, you know what?
The Islamists,
we are with you. We are your brothers in religion. We're here, but the rebels are not good. They just want to divide the whole country. We need to chase them off.
The people said.
The people would say yes and believe that, okay, since they already know that we are Muslim as well, they're not going to try to impose anything severe or Sharia-wise. But that's what they did. They did that, but once the MNLA was off, then they imposed the Sharia. But the MNLA was also allied himself with the devil. That's the problem. They even signed a paper saying that, okay, seeing that they did not have the balance of power was not shifting on their side, they decided to ally themselves with Al-Saudi. But by doing so, the political branch, and there was a division among them, or some were for secular state, and the others believed that they should ally themselves with Islamists since they did not have the resources to maintain the three regions by themselves.
So, if you don't mind me asking, the people side with the Islamists, and then the Islamists became extreme and imposed Sharia law. So did the people...
The people then were against the Islamists.
So now the people are against the Islamists?
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah,
most definitely, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying that for even the Islamists to come within the population and try to hide within the population, it's kind of hard. This is one of the things that I work for an organization right now, and we are making sure that there are no revenge acts. Because some people, if you were seen with the Islamists, the population would associate you with them, and they would attack you. They would probably beat you up or kill you. So these are the things that I'm saying we need to fight. That the Malian army, and the French army, and the ECOWAS need to be careful of. They need to be aware that the population has been living with the Islamists for the past 10 months. There were whippings on the street. They had the hand cut. I mean, terrible things. So they need to work on that. So I don't really believe that the Islamists can just mingle within the population like that. They will go to different villages and stuff like that, but the main capitals of the regions, I don't believe so.
Yeah, my problem is, people. Who are the people? When you talk about the people, I personally don't condone the cutting of hands. Yeah, I'm not. I'm a Muslim, and I don't even think it's a human thing to do. But the problem is we need to understand who the people are. Because we might think people didn't like it, whereas there are some among those people who thought that was the coolest thing to do, especially if they are extremists. I mean, if they believe in extreme Islam. Right. I want to say your point of reconciliation is very important. And that is exactly what needs to be done once, like the dust settles. Because once people are not reconciled, it will be very difficult to come, to achieve forgiveness and progress. And again, maybe to go back to your point about why these guys were making progress, maybe it might be a minor point, but I think they made progress not because of the coup. The coup came as a result of the progress that was going on. And they felt that if the government doesn't do anything, and it wasn't doing much, according to the army, that's why they quickly maybe threw this guy out of office. Yet they not done that, I'm sure by now maybe Mali could have been taken by extremists because the army was failing and they were being beaten point blank. So maybe it's just a minor contribution. But I agree mostly with what you're saying regarding the future of Mali, that they need to put their house in order and try to bring some
there are different things that we should do. We are going to be looking at.
Exactly.
We need to do a lot of reforms.
Exactly.
Legislation that we need to look at to make sure that most needs are met.
And I think you should go to the people, not just to do these things in the office.
Oh, no.
Go to the people.
That's the conference we're trying to do. I think we're going to have a conference where everybody's going to be sitting at a table, so we can all discuss how to go forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bouba and Tompson, for joining us today and enlightening us on this conflict in Mali.
Thank you for inviting us.